Good afternoon, everyone. I am Arushi Mendirata from Startup India team. Startup India is a flagship initiative of Government of India under Ministry of Commerce. We are here today for the first session of the Startup India Innovation Week 2024, the first AMA session as part of the Innovation Week. The topic of this session revolves around opportunities for budding startups and incubators in the ecosystem, drawing insights from the seed fund scheme. Today, we have with us esteemed panel members from expert incubators across the nation. I also have with me Tanvi, who is my colleague from Startup India. Both of us will be moderating today's session. We'll be starting with the introductions. Parvez, sir, if you would like to just give a brief background about yourself.
Hi everyone, and thanks Startup India for the opportunity. And I am Parvez Alam. I am the Executive Director of Crescent Innovation Incubation Council. We are existing for the last 5 years and funded by 7 ministries. We also recently funded by Niti Aayog, and we started AIC-CIC. So primarily we are focusing on life science, industry 4.0 and mobility sector. Thank you.
Wonderful to hear that, sir. Dr. Ramakrishna, if you would like to, yes.
Yeah. Good evening. So myself, Dr. Ramakrishna, representing ASPIRE. ASPIRE means Association for Scientific Pursuits for Innovative Research Enterprises. It's a Section 8 for not-for-profit company owned by University of Hyderabad. We are a deep tech-based incubation center. So we have 3 incubation centers, TBI, Tide, and Bionest. So we have, incubated more than 70 plus startups so far on our portfolio. And right now we are handling Startup India Seed Fund program also. This is in brief about. We'll go into the
Wonderful
details.
to hear that, sir. Dr. Divya, if you'd like to just give a brief background.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Divya Rajput. I'm the CEO with JSS Step Noida. We are a 20 years old incubation and acceleration ecosystem. Some of our portfolio companies include Rail Yatri. That's been one of our flagship startups. And then currently, we are handling programs for Startup India as well as for Department of Science and Technology. And we have very recently launched the Bharat Tech Accelerator. So we've migrated from an IT-based incubator to a deep tech incubator now.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. Tej, if you'd like to just end with your introduction before we begin with the questions.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for hosting me here. I am Tej Chingtham, basically from Sikkim Manipal University. We are an Atal Incubation Center, the first Atal Incubation Center from the Northeast. But having said that, we moved quite fast, so to say, from a non-existent ecosystem to an emerging one, which we have recently been able to see a lot of changes happening in the Northeast. So I am associated with the whole ecosystem for the past 7 years, and technically I come from academic background. But having said that, we have a lot of startup and innovation coming, showcasing what India really represents, the underserved region, and that basically is a way to showcase, starting right from the Northeast itself. We are sector agnostic, so to say, but having said that, we are into some of the latest and most emerging technologies. Like we have been recently supported by Meta for one of their acceleration program with support of about $2 million invested across India as well. So we have also been running this program for SISF, Startup India Seed Fund as well. So over to you.
Lovely to hear that, Dr. Tej. Thank you, everybody, for your introductions. So before, without further ado, to set the flow of the conversation, I'd just like to begin with certain topics of discussion revolving around startups in the audience and moving on to incubators or budding incubators in the ecosystem. My first question for the day is for Parvez, sir. Sir, we would like to understand how has your experience been in incubating and supporting early stage startups, and please feel free to share insights from seed level success stories that you've incubated in the past.
So thanks, Rishi. Actually, we are university based incubator. So in fact, we are very fortunate to have all the mix Like we have a pre-incubator, we have an incubator, we have an accelerator. So all the 150 portfolio of startups are spread across all the stages. So I always say we have a UG program, PG program, and PhD program all together once somebody joins. So having said that, so we have a lot of student startup seed fund from our university. We start giving for 50,000 for a prototype, and then we have something called the Tamil Nadu government gives innovation voucher program, which is 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. So that gives to them to make even this 2 lakhs, they can do a proof of concept. That's enough. Even they need not to make a prototype. So this has incentivized a lot of the early stage thinkers to convert into startup. Otherwise, everyone think that, oh, this is not a startup. India seed fund is slightly little matured. It's very competition heavy. But so these type of seed grants, even Tamil Nadu government gives something called TANSEED, which is 10 to 15 lakhs. So we have graduated them. In fact, we have seen someone who has started a student startup in our campus, who has got this, what I say, this innovation program of 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, who have got the 10, 15 lakhs, who also got the Startup India seed fund scheme. So we could see that the gradual increase of the last 3 years, this incubator is existence in the last 6 years. But having seen that, but I'm able to see this thing. And we have some startup who have directly come to a seed fund stage. For example, a startup who we invested, now they have going to an acceleration stage. We have recently took a delegation to Dubai, JITEX. We took them delegation. We introduced them for investors. We raised the fund from them. So, in the sense, it's the overall journey is quite exciting, and thanks to but with all credits to the conducive ecosystem created by Startup India and and other agencies. Because I used to say on a very lighter note, when somebody says in 2014 when Startup India, before that, when somebody says that they want a bridegroom as a startup, they won't get it if they say the startup. But today even people doesn't have a job, they say they are running a startup and then they're getting married. So to that extent, that incubator and startup has given a lot of impact in the society. People started believing that the startup started working, and of course the results is the proof of the pudding is in results. We have reached this 108 unicorns, which also gives a motivation and impact in the overall journey. Thank you.
Wonderful to hear that, Parvez sir. Thank you for sharing your insights. And I think it is from your support and support of such avid enthusiasts like you, like the panel members, that startups are doing well in the Indian ecosystem. Moving on to Dr. Tej, I would like to know from you how your experience has been in terms of supporting seed stage startups, particularly from tier 2, tier 3 perspective.
Well, RC, thank you so much for asking this question. I think it's more pertinent in this is my reason, but having said that, this spread across the country, and we'll all agree that we have about 804, if I'm not mistaken, districts that we have across the country, out of which a majority chunk of it lies in the underserved or tier 2, tier 3, or the lower rural areas that we sort of speak of, and majority of the population lives around there. So when we talk about the growth of the country, we need to grow from here, and we cannot grow right from the center of the country. So we have to start concentrating around this. Is one major intention and one major belief and conviction that we all had, and that's exactly where we started off this incubator. Because you'll be surprised to know most of the people in the northeastern region are dependent on government jobs, which is reach a threshold and we cannot support anymore. And there has to be other alternatives, and probably we cannot see any other better alternatives than building enterprises, and that's the best way forward for all of us. We have a large chunk of educated youths, and I think you'll agree that 65% of the population of the country is below the age of 65, which means a lot of them are about to enter into a job, or they are already seeking for a job, and this are educated mass. and unless we streamline them appropriately, the demographic dividend that we can garner out of this will end up into demographic disaster, which I would like to put it that way, but please don't misquote me for this purpose. But having said that, we would like to convert this into the right direction. But when I look at, when we all, I'm sure my fellow speakers around here will also agree with me that when we talk about any new ecosystem, there are 4 stages to all this startup that comes into this ecosystem. The first one is it's a standard process, that the first one comes at an introduction stage, then comes the growth stage, then the maturity, and at a particular stage called decline. And I'm sure you all will agree that a lot have gone into the decline very recently, despite reaching the highest point. But what we intend to do, what is the role of an incubator at this point, is we want to be there at the point where the introduction happens, when they come up with an idea, when they come up with a new prototype. We want to be there. Many a times we have often been misunderstood. I come from a technical university, so I can quote it this way. When we were asked what an incubator is, I have seen 3 different types of incubator. The first incubator I saw in my life was a poultry incubator, where people put egg into the hatchery and then you get chicks out of it. That's the first incubator. When I first introduced an incubator in my region, people have opposed and said, ask me question as to what are you going to do with an incubator, because people still do not understand what an incubator is. The second thing is, since I come from a technical university and Manipal has a large set of medical hospital, I think the second incubator that we all have seen is an incubator in the pediatric ward, in the where the small child, as soon as the baby is born, that they generally use that. So that is the second incubator. And the third incubator that we are talking about is a business incubator. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you are. I would not like to interrupt.
So in all this, So in all this tree, if you look at it very carefully, we are dealing with early stage of life. And that's exactly where the role of an incubator is supposed to be. And that's exactly where we want to stay at the introduction stage, and maybe at the gradual stage of growth. And SISF has come in at the very right stage to bridge the gap between the introduction and the growth. Or we are the acceleration and other things will come at a later stage of growth, whereas the maturity requires a lot of innovation to remain at the maturity stage instead of going to the decline. A lot of these larger organizations have gone into the decline stage more so because they did not innovate. So I think these are examples that we have seen around, and we have tried to build this as learning from across, and try to put this into ecosystem like ours, which are underserved. And that's exactly where we come in. And based on this learning, that's exactly what we want to implement. Yeah, I think I briefly answered, though we will hear from others as well.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your insights, especially about the various stages of a startup's life. I would like to now direct my question to Dr. Divya. Dr. Divya, if you could please share your views on the choice between bootstrapping and raising seed funds in the initial stages of starting up, and what are the factors that the entrepreneurs should consider in making this decision?
Right. Thank you, Tanvi. That's a very interesting question. And that's something we contemplate all the time with our startups here. So, making a decision between bootstrapping versus early stage funding. I would say that, everybody has to have their skin in the game. So that is true for the startups. But at the same time, also raising funding early is a validation for a great idea. So while I would suggest that yes, startups should start, it's great to bootstrap. See, because that's all the reason why you decided to become an entrepreneur, to be your own boss. So, if you're really sure about, the problem that you're solving and you want to solve it your way, it doesn't hurt to bootstrap and also show your skin in the game. At the same time, it will also ensure that you're more cautious of spending that money, because it's your own money, it's your personal funds. And your focus will remain on trying to create a great product which the market is ready to absorb. And currently what we call as the funding winter, where even investors start to look at profitability. So, which means that in early stages, it's great if you can build a product by being bootstrapped. However, I think in India, we are fortunate to have a scheme like the Startup India Seed Fund, where early stage startups can also pick up, seed funding at much lesser price, or at typically at RBI repo rate. That's what we do. So it's a great incentive, because yes, as I said, it's a validation of your business model. It helps you validate your business model if you are able to raise funding. However, there are so many startups we've seen who've been bootstrapped. I mean, India, I think again, we have beautiful examples of Zoho and Zerodha, two unicorns which have actually throughout remained bootstrapped and still, grown to become a unicorn. So early stages also, I would recommend them to save on their equity, because equity is precious. So maybe again, as I said, try schemes like Startup India Seed Fund, and there are a couple of other government schemes which they can explore in early stages. So that's a sincere recommendation from my side.
Thank you, Dr. Divya, for your insights. And as you said about the government and private opportunities that are there in the ecosystem, I would like to move on to my next question for Dr. Ramakrishna. So, we would like to understand from you what are the various avenues of funding, especially for seed stage startups, available today, and how does the government contribute to fostering a conducive environment for startups?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that question. So let me start in a way that a decade back, when the incubation activity started in India. So, for example, University of Hyderabad. So we started in 2010. So at the time, it's only for establishment of incubation centers, but not any direct support to the startup. Initially, it was like that, but incentives was given. So in the later stage, so by modulating a lot of the policies and everything. So right now there are 120 schemes for startups through various departments. Nearly 13 departments or ministries from government of India, they are providing seed fund assistance in one or another way. So maybe that is starting from the early stage to the even to the scale up stages. For example, Startup India, so we have schemes like a seed fund assistance scheme. This is for, categorized into three parts kind: the early stage, the growth phase, and the mid level and the growth phase kind of thing. In similar ways, if you take a DST supported schemes like Nidhi Prayas, Nidhi Seed Fund Support Scheme, if you take BIRAC, big grant, biotechnology ignition grant, SBIPP, so all these kind of grants were there, which was exclusively designed for startups at different levels. So this might be started the ideation stage to the scale up stage, and even the production and the commercialization stage also. So in similar way, when you go to the private agencies or angel investors, there are few agencies which they are also supporting the early stage, but most of the people investors, they are focusing on the growth of the growth stage startups. So these are the two main schemes readily available for startups in both private and government sector. So in general, so the tune of the funding, so earlier when the bootstrapping startups, they have very limited resources, because from their own resources they are utilizing the funds. But now government when and introduced 800 to 900 crores of exclusive seed fund for the early stage of startups. Now I think you have the statistics how many startups get benefited. So as of now, in our incubation center, we have supported more than 16 startups through Startup India Seed Fund program, and few more through various other schemes. So which are at the early ideation stage to the commercialization stages. So out of which nearly 5 to 6 startups, they have reached to the next level. So this is the right now, the statistics with our incubation center, and the benefits generally what they are getting by the startups are getting is it's well noted at all places.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramakrishna. Thank you for sharing the various schemes that are available for startups. Now that we know what are the various schemes available, we would like to also know how should startups go about applying for them. So my next question is for Parvez sir. If you could please tell us that in a startup's application for seed fund, what metrics do incubators look for, and how should these startups go about applying to these incubators?
Yeah, that's an important thing aspect of it. So the first and foremost thing what we look for is this market need or market fit. I think as many of us know, 50% of the startup fail today because they could not reach out the market need. And everyone comes with a great idea, and then they will say that this has to be, this is next Uber or Ola, but finally nobody willing to buy it. So we first thing and foremost thing is we look for market fit. In fact, I come from a corporate R&D background. So what we do is when we develop product, we go and do a market survey, and then we do competitor survey, and then only we give this input to R&D. But unfortunately, now the startups are doing the other way, where they develop the R&D and then they're trying to fit into the market. So this is the problem I foresee everywhere in the application. So the first and foremost thing I look is we look forward is this market fit and market need. And second thing which we look aspect we look is this team strength and the team's passion, the founder's passion and team strength, because that's where the early stage startup, that's a main characteristic for them to move forward in the initial stages. So the 3 or 4 co-founders, their team strength, their mentor strength and the aspect. And third most thing we are look for is this innovation IP. So of course, the only DPIIT startups can apply, and they are already convincing DPIIT department that they are doing something different, otherwise they don't get certificate. And having said that, what it is different, the innovation and IP aspect of it. The fourth aspect which we look is this, of course, we are also a guardian of the Startup India for seed fund and the utilization plan, like how in 2 to 3 milestones and how they utilize. And of course, we do it with every milestone due diligence on what they commit and how they approach. I think these are the 4 important metrics we look while screening as well as processing the Startup India application.
Right. Thank you, Parvez sir. I think your answer is quite relevant for both the startups in the audience as well as incubators who want to learn and grow their organization. Moving on to Dr. Divya, I would like to know what is the role of an incubator in, but forming the startup's journey, whether it's from a mentorship perspective or investment perspective. How do you help these incubators, and what is the skin in the game?
Right. Thank you, Arushi. So, as I started, that we are a 20 years old startup ecosystem, and we are a physical incubator. So we are housed in Sector 62 Noida, which is prime industrial area. And then, however, we are housed in an academic institution, but most of our audience or most of our startups come from the entire Delhi NCR region. In fact, now with Startup India Seed Fund, we have startups from even down south, from Northeast, Bihar, and all across the country, Jaipur, and so on. So the basic advantage of being housed in an incubator is the ecosystem in itself. So there is so much cross learning which happens. There is mentors present. So we have a mentor in residence as well. So, and then we keep inviting a lot of domain mentors who are, very passionate people who want to give back to the startup ecosystem. And then, of course, there is funding. And then there is, this promise to accelerate. And what happens is, when you put everybody together in one room where there are just ideas flowing and there's just talk and discussions of business happening, I don't think anybody can actually remain secluded from not thinking about growing their business. So that's what this ecosystem does. So relative to a solo effort that somebody, in fact, we have a lot of these young startups coming to us telling us that, we can find cheaper places outside, but the reason we come to Step is because we feel we'll be so charged up and so motivated to keep performing better. So it's about, reducing their gestation time, their time to hit market. Like my co-panelist Parvez, he just mentioned that, rather than creating a great product first, if they understand the customer's requirement and the market acceptability. So, when everybody is doing that and the ecosystem is completely evolved around it, that's what they end up doing. And that's why, for our startups, the success rate or the survival rate is 68% during their incubation period. Even if they have to pivot, there's somebody to help them bounce off their ideas. So I would say the primary importance of incubators is to reduce the gestation period. Of course, as I said, funding is available, but then also for that there has to be a business model which is being cracked already. And once that is done, there is a possibility that they're able to scale up very fast. So, against a solo effort, I think being in an incubator can help them scale up 3 times.
Thank you so much, Dr. Divya. Thank you for sharing how important an incubator is to accelerate the growth of startups. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Ramakrishna, what tips would you offer to new incubators to develop their capabilities in managing seed funds and supporting early stage startups, and how they should go about attracting a strong and diverse startup pipeline?
So first of all, if any organization wants to establish an incubation center, so fundamentally they need to have an ecosystem. A conducive ecosystem where they have the sources of pipeline of incubators or startups should be there. So the best possibility for this one is academic organization, because I came from an academic organization. So the major objective to establish an incubation center in academic organization is to translate whatever the scientific outputs from that organization into a commercializable product. So I'm giving an example. So like universities like us. So when we started, the footfall is very less, but we have a strong ecosystem, scientific ecosystem. So where they are giving some, hand-holding support to the startup who are working in those similar lines or in the same trust areas. So that is one thing. Second thing, important thing is, so you need to have a dedicated team to manage the incubator operations, day-to-day activities, and engaging all the startups whatever their needs for their so for their operations kind of thing. Third one is you need to be in a position to show some kind of resources, especially financial resources. At the early stages, whomever coming to the incubator should be in a position to show them where is the funds are available to start their journey. And fourth one, so whenever they need to have a kind of technical or mentoring kind of thing, you need to have a readily available, technical mentor pool or business mentoring pool kind of thing. So these are all advantages if any incubator is, located in an academic organization. And third, the utmost important thing is we need to provide a full-fledged networking system for startups. It may be starting from the technical to the business or even IP or even regulatory service kind of thing or even marketing kind of thing. So if we can see the 360-degree view of the requirements of a startup, any incubation center can be flourish. Incubating more number of startups. So the success of any incubator is always we are measuring in the terms of number of startups get incubated, number of exits happened in the recent times in 1 or 2 couple of years kind of thing. But in my view, personal view, so I can tell that we need to differentiate incubators depending on their trust areas. For example, if any incubator is focusing on domains like in a deep tech sector like life sciences, biotech, or any pharma or even electronics or this kind of thing, the average gestation period is 5 to 7 years to get a minimum viable product or some technology kind of thing. So we can't expect, the success in the terms of number of startups get incubated. because all these incubators needs a plug and play environment where the startups needs, for their operations kind of thing. So which is a mandate, basically. The basic primary thing which they require is a plug and play environment. So an incubator, an average size of an incubator, basically in terms of infrastructure, maybe maximum, nowadays we can see that 10 to 20,000, or if it is in a very lavish kind of thing, or a very renowned incubator, they might have like 50,000 SFT plug and play space. So in that entire space, we can accommodate only 20 to 30 startups who are into deep tech sector. So the success terminology when for an incubator, it will varies from and the different aspects. It should not be only fixed on to the number of startups get incubated in that one, but we need to see in other terms like how much, what is the impact by the startups they have created during that incubation period, how many IPs they generated, how many employment they generated. So these are the success metrics for the incubation center. So anyone who is willing to start their own incubation center by any organization, they need to have a conducive environment to start the incubation center. So that is my advice.
Thank you, Dr. Ramakrishna. I think quite a food for thought for our audience regarding the plug and play mechanism. Finally, moving on to Dr. Tej. Dr. Tej, I'd like to ask you what critical milestones mark the evolution of startups from their journey from an incubator to advancing through an accelerator, and how do you actively support and fuel the subsequent stages of development? Dr. Tej, you're not
Unmute.
audible. Yes, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, that's a lot of question put together in one. Let me just put it across in a slightly simpler way. A lot of people have written a lot of articles around it, and especially the ones coming from academia and people who are in research will understand where it comes from. If you look at Forbes, they have Stodtband's 8 milestones of successful startup. They have taken a generic outline of milestones that has been done across globally and what is more successful. But in our case, we do a couple of things that we look at. From our incubator perspective, we have looked at some of the key parameters that we look at includes the customer acquisition cost, which is the CAC, which is very, very important because that's something that a lot of times our startup have never paid attention to. Then the churn rate, the customer lifetime value, or for instance, the average order size is something that because of this, without understanding all this, they keep applying for different type of funds and without really knowing exactly as to when to apply and what to apply is again another challenge that everybody has. And so to say, even the gross sales and the gross margin, all these are important component that needs to be considered when they actually start looking as to what type of funds we should look at. And if as an incubator, I think we have a lot of incubators in our panel as well as a lot of audience. I would like to convey this to our startup that dip it in, the incubators are basically trying to judge you on 3 different type of startups that we come across very, very frequently. Trying to put them, if I have to put this in this way, the first type of startup that we come across very frequently is the lifestyle. There is no name to it, but I would prefer to call it the lifestyle startup founders, where they spend about 4 to 5 hours of per day to do their startup, and then the rest of the time they try to go for meetings and interacting with them, and they are not very worried about the growth of it, but they want to milk all the profit that is possible that comes out of it. I'm not saying that it's not successful. It is a model for themselves. They earn the revenue, they want to travel, they want to meet people, they want to do all of it. That's a kind of the first type of startup founders that we come across very frequently. The second type of founders that we come across, which we again as incubators we observe it as we talk to you, is the ambitious ones, where you feel that without sleeping, without eating, you'll forget almost everything, but you wanted to grow very, very fast, and you're looking at everything that you can put in so that your startup grows. It's almost like a baby that you wanted to grow. I think that's the second category of startup that we come across very frequently. And the third one is like the one which needs to grow very, very fast. And this three, the second category which I was talking about, the ambitious one, actually fits very, very well for the Startup India Seed Fund, because these are the ones who works very, very hard and they need money, but they are really wanting to expand, and that's area where we actually feel that they fit very well. And the third group, which is basically the fast growing, the deep tech and the one which are expected to grow a lot faster. For instance, if you look at SpaceX or for that matter Facebook or Google, probably you can't possibly work alone, or bootstrapping will not work on those kind of startups. So it's important that we identify what kind of funding is necessary, when it is necessary, and what kind of support should be provided. And that's exactly what the incubator does dip within as soon as you apply. And on the basis of it, for instance, if a lot of startups do not know whether they apply for a grant, if that is not available, they said, okay, I'm okay with debt, and again they said I'm okay with equity. That's not how it goes. Actually, there's a very clear guideline as to what you should be following. And this as a message I'm passing on to the startup, because I think this is what the incubators are also looking at you, or even the VCs are looking at you when you look at it. If you're looking for that, that's basically you have a monthly run rate that you have, almost on a recurring rate that you have, revenue that you have. And in that case, you need immediate cash burn unit, and then you go for debt funds. That is how you should be going. And if you're making prototypes, then you go for grants. That's how you should be going. But unfortunately, in our case, what is happening with the Startup India Seed Fund is everybody is ready to go for, if one is not available, the other option should be taken, is something that a lot of things have happened around here, and something that we have to be very careful about, because as a startup founder, you have to be worried about what your startup is going to be. And that exactly what is the measures that the incubator provide to the startup, the understanding and clarity of it. Let me also put this across. The venture capital, the institutional funds that we are looking at are basically, the venture funds are looking for startups which are basically outliers, who can actually become a 3x or 5x at the fastest time possible. And not all startups that are there are going to fall into this category. Therefore, you'll have to see what kind of fund and from whom we should be taking is something that is very, very important. Like there is a saying that says, crossing the river by touching the stone. That's what you say. You should look around and see what is the best way to move forward. And I think that is the best milestone for yourself. For an incubator, we have multiple parameters that are given as guideline. Even Forbes is given as guideline. We can follow all of it. But from a startup's perspective, I think the milestone that you should look at is by creating an awareness of yourself as to what you need now and what you need to look at. Are you looking at, if you are a bootstrap, you are looking only at present. If you are looking at, if you are looking at venture fund or institutional fund, you're looking into the future. So you have more opportunities to look into the future. Whereas if you're bootstrap, you have an opportunity to look immediately. That's the only difference between a bootstrap and a venture backed startup, that short to say. So from the perspective of a startup, that is what I'm trying to tell you. But from the perspective of VC or from an incubator or an accelerator, the perspective will be very, very different. So that awareness from the perspective of a startup is very, very important, is what we try to inculcate and convey this to the startup when they come to the incubator or to the accelerator. And these are the milestones, both from the perspective of the startup as well as from the incubator, are what we generally follow as we use in our incubator, at least for the sake.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tej. It was very interesting to hear your thoughts about the three kinds of startup founders, and I'm sure our startup audience here will also resonate with that. Now, moving on to the last question, I open the floor to all the panelists, and if they can give their views. If you could please highlight a success story where a startup has benefited from the seed fund in your incubator and eventually advanced through the accelerator program. Please go ahead. Thank
you. Can I go first?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Yeah, so in fact, we have some of these very interesting case studies out of the Startup India Seed Fund. So the first seed fund that we had signed up was it was an air to water generator. It was a product. However, the prototype was already ready. That was our first Startup India Seed Fund deployment, which we had done in 2021. So this is a startup called Area of Eco-Friendly Resources, and they had created a air to water generator. So as I said, when they came to us, they had already created a prototype. In fact, he had also filed for a patent. And, so my obvious question was, why do you need this funding? And, the founder, Sanjay Garg, he had a very simple answer. He said, I want to be a startup. I want to see, what this startup seed funding can do for me. And also, I want to commercialize this product as it should be. So, this was a simple answer he gave me. And we said, okay, if 10 lakh, so we said you don't need more than 10 lakhs, because that's what we figured out, that if there maybe a couple of units have to be produced and then commercialized, he doesn't need too much funding. And then uh, he took it to places. In fact, he also represented India on the World Economic Forum. On the Startup India selected him as the top 75 startups during in 2021. He also represented India on the WEF. He was also there in G20, because sustainability has been the theme for 2023. And so I think right from the domain that he represented, or the sector he represented, and the sector was growing, to the demand. And he raised some FDI as well. He raised funding from a US based accelerator, and now we have also brought him to our accelerator, because during this course of 1.5 years, it has actually been a great success story both for him and for us. So what he wanted to do with the startup, so to be able to create a business model which is repeatable and scalable, and which can actually take him to places, I think that is something which has been accomplished. So even the patent has been granted. He even won one grant from the Ministry of Urban and Home Affairs, Urban Affairs, which was to deploy his machine in Chennai with the civic authorities, with the municipality there. And so a couple of very interesting incidents have happened, and because we could also bring those opportunities of the ecosystem to him, and to the likes of other startups who've been benefited through JSS step. So this is just one of the success stories I want to share. We have many more from the Startup India Seed Fund, the first fund that we deployed in startups. But I think my co-panelists would like to share more. Thank you.
Yeah, so in similar way, so I mean, so we have, as I said earlier, so we have supported more than 15 startups under Startup India Seed Fund program. I think there are quite few, so really doing good, because as we are into a deep tech sector, the gestation period is more, so still we are not seeing the final kind of success kind of thing, but considerably, I mean, all the startups are doing well. So I will give you one or two examples that one of our startup, so Cruise and Grade. So I mean, one of the founder is Mr. Ravi. He's IIM graduate, IIM Ahmedabad graduate. So he, I mean, so that startup is doing, I mean, smart farming tools for farmers. So where they are connecting farmers directly to the market, there is no middleman interventions. So now he has a customer base, especially farmers is the first customers. So I think nearly 2,000 farmers were connected at different remote locations in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, and other areas. And even they are covering the southern part of India, and they are widespreading to different types of crops also. So this is one, I mean, where, I mean, deeply penetrate into the, I mean, the root level of the, I mean, the nation, at the remote locations of the nation. One more, I mean, deep tech startup from, physical, who are physically incubated at Aspire University of Hyderabad is UR Advanced Therapeutics. So these people are working on biomaterials basically. So, for example, a small example is artificial cornea. So they are developing some kind of biomaterials, this kind of thing. And recently, they started. They raised some external funding up to 20 crores so far. So like that, majority of our startups who are into deep tech, so and I mean they are reaching, just they completed the prototype, development or even the validation stage, and now they are moving on to the next level stages. And in addition to the existing, Startup India Seed Fund program, we have some other seed fund programs. And I reached one of our faculty members, so he started his own firm, so Manjira Digital Systems. So he is developing multimedia accelerator system where it is improving the performance and the action of the electronic goods. And his first customer is Intel, and now second customer is ISRO. So ISRO is deploying its technology for imaging purpose kind of thing. So I mean that startup has reached to Series C level right now at this moment. So these are, I mean, it's a small one or two examples, but there are, I mean, other examples, I mean, who are not availing this seed fund support, who grown on their own also. So one group who, I mean, graduated from University of Hyderabad, they started one startup, Bikers. Bikers means by Central University students. So they are working into biosimilars. So they started in a small place. Now they are employing more than 60, I mean, people in that group, and they raised nearly up to 16 to maybe 60 crores of, I mean, external funding. So these are few success stories from our incubation center. Thank you.
Wonderful to hear that, Dr. Ramakrishna. Just in the interest of time, asking Dr. Tej and Dr. Parvez Alam sir if you have any quick stories to share with us so that we can move on to the questions from the chat.
Yeah. So, Tej, you want to go?
Okay, whichever ways, no problem. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll just quickly summarize. I will not take much time. I just will share two stories. One is an agritech, which basically works in the region in Northeast. They use IoT, and the kind of product they made was the geographically so similar with the Vietnamese, so much so that they got a pilot for a project for the government of Vietnam. Is something that I would like to share. That's again that scaled from the seed funding from SISF, the Startup India Seed Fund, is something that I would like to share. The second one is basically we are, as we speak, we are in negotiation for one of our startups for being acquired by a larger organization, and that's in talk right now. And I think we'll have a better story that unfolds in about 1 or 2 months. Is something that I would like to share. And both the startups are supported under the Startup India Seed Fund. Yeah, over to you, Parvez. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll also make it quick. So we got totally funded 27 startups so far, and then we are one of the early, incubator to get that first Startup India Seed Fund first application, as well as second application. Now we are deploying the second 5 crore, and there are many success stories. The one which I want to maybe highlight is a startup called Rapti, which is a high performance electric bike equivalent to Royal Enfield and so on. So the guy who runs a Royal Enfield dealership, he said did his masters in Purdue and worked in Tesla for some time, and then want to return back and then start a high performance bike, electric bike, because everything is less than 100 cc and it is above 200 cc and so on. And when he came with the idea, we believed in it, and then we gave a Startup India seed fund thanks to 35 lakhs. In fact, he keeps telling me that if you would not have received that 35 lakhs, you would have bankrupt on that day, but not paying salary to his team members and so on. He still keeps saying that. Now, thanks to Startup India support, he has been also, we took him a delegation as part of the Dubai Expo, where he is also another startup funded. And then we have very good Middle East market connections. We have connected them, and he has raised 6 crores from Middle East in that the startup meetings which we did in Dubai Expo. So totally he raised in that fund 35 crores fund with 232 crore valuation. So the 335 lakhs what we have invested in the last less than 24 months, it has almost tripled. I think that's and we would not have this money to invest and then build this startup without Startup India seed fund scheme for sure. I think this is truly a success story from the SAFS. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. I think truly incredible stories from all incubator teams. We would like to move on to questions now. We have certain questions in the chat. I'd begin with the first one. So, somebody has written, I want to know if an incubator needs to be hard with an incubated startup, as sometimes startups will not be sincere in government, not for profit incubation centers. So, will any incubator requesting anybody to pick this question up and answer for the startup? Dr. Ramakrishna?
Okay, could you repeat what is that question?
Yeah, I didn't understand the question. Yeah.
I think the person wants to know how, if an incubator is hard with it, in terms of the evaluation with the startup, And sometimes startups are not aware about the ecosystem as per the government aspects of it. How can an incubator guide them in providing that that knowledge?
Okay, so I mean, see, most of the startups will do some a few mistakes. I can say that if anyone willing to have, I mean, avail some seed fund assistance from any incubator. So first of all, they need to know the guidelines. What are the prescribed guidelines by the agency before the incubator? I mean, so before to the incubator. So suppose if it's Startup India Seed Fund program, it is well described. I mean, so what are the guidelines for a startup to get the seed fund? So when I received an application, so from a startup, so generally we see, I mean, so whether it is a sector fit or not. This is the very fundamental thing which we are saying. I mean, the first thing. Second thing, what is his idea? Whether it is have some value to that idea, so whether it is really can be translatable to a product or technology kind of thing. So what is the uniqueness or novelty in that idea? These two main things we majorly focus on. Third one, we always see that whether the team has the capability, I mean, whether they really do the feasibility kind of thing or not. So this is one thing. So majority of the startups fails that the pragmatism levels. Someone will come with some vague idea, so this we can do so into a product or we can go into the market. But in reality, whether it can be doable or not, because they never done enough research, the market research basically, is there any existing competitor or not? If there are, so what is the, I mean, so they need to see the statistics. So how much market they have and what, I mean, which way they will go and penetrate into the market. These kind of factors, they need to critically see that one. And very recently, we observed very common, I mean, I think, I mean, other panelists also will agree with this one. There are few agencies where they are trapping these startups, basically, I mean, new startups, the budding entrepreneurs. They will provide you services in making the application for Startup India Seed Fund, and we will upload, and you will damn sure you will get kind of thing. But when you see all these, I mean, applications, all these applications are generic in nature, very, very generic in nature. There is no novelty. So my sincere appeal to the new upcoming or budding entrepreneurs is never, never, and ever fall into the traps of these people. Whatever the idea you have, first you try to work on that one. Otherwise, if you approach any incubator I mean, nearby in your region, definitely they will help you in shaping up, or even in how to make a pitch deck and how to fill an application also will help you people. But never and ever waste your money and waste your time. So because once if your idea got rejected, I mean, by one incubator, it will go to the next incubator again there also, and third one also, like that. And almost I think you are losing 3 to 6 months of valuable time. So never and ever do these kind of mistakes. If you have some innovative idea, first you work on that one, how to make it a better one. If you need some kind of assistance, you need to approach any incubator nearby, and then we will help you all people. So this is my advice.
Thank you, Dr. Ramakrishnan, for that lovely insight. Moving on to the next question, Neha Mehta has asked which Indian agencies to be contacted being an investor. I think she would like to know about, from an incubator perspective, how do you collaborate and co-invest into startups or any programs that you have in an association with investment agencies. Dr. Divya, would you like to take this question up?
Sure. So we primarily create a portfolio. We look, we explore even the portfolio of these investment firms or VC funds. And then we reach out to them with the portfolio. We try and organize, exclusive demo days where, their teams can visit STEP, and then, the startups uh, can pitch before their teams. And then thereafter, where there is interest. So, it is more about creating a fitment between the sector where these VC funds are investing and what our startups are doing, because we are necessarily a sector agnostic incubator. And we, yes, we prefer to co-invest, but that is our own incubation fund. So over years, JSS Step has received about 15 exits. So we've also created our incubation fund. So that incubation fund is the money which we utilize for co-investments. because when there is a government scheme like the Startup India Seed Fund or even the DST's Nidhi SSS, so that is where we have to abide by the scheme norms. But then we have over the years created our own incubation fund and we co-invest with these investors. So and reaching out to them, that's an ongoing exercise which our investment team does. So yeah, we keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Divya. Another question we have is regarding what next is there for a startup after being incubated under an incubator? What are the other opportunities that they should look forward to as part of the market? Parvez, sir, will you be like to take this question?
Yeah, I think that's in the earlier discussion I said we do the acceleration also. So when the incubation, so in the previous case I mentioned as well as so in the last 3 years consistently we took almost 12 startup delegation to Jitex Dubai, and then giving them an opportunity to reach out to the MENA market and further so on. And also like we will go beyond India. For example, we have case studies where we have connected startups to African market, and somebody in the question asked for North American market. In fact, we had a tie-up with Berkeley Skydeck Accelerator Program, where if you get admitted, we have talks with them. We have conducted a roadshow for that. If you get admitted in the system, you get 500, almost $500,000 as part of the thing, and then they will also give a migration opportunity to Silicon Valley. So the only thing is the maybe the challenge what we face. We can't accelerate everybody, is because they are not ready to scale up, or the product or the idea is not ready to scale up. So the when the investors look from the Silicon Valley, they say they should migrate here, they should scale up, they should establish operations. Same in Middle East and so on. So we have to only pick the candidates who are ready for that. So as long as they are ready, there are enough opportunities. They can grow in the current ecosystem. They can grow to become a unicorn. So the opportunities are plenty.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Parvez, sir. There were a couple of questions along what should a startup do in case they're rejected for getting incubated or getting funded by an incubator? What is the next step, and how do incubators handle that situation sensitively, giving that, empowering the startup with the knowledge of what they should focus on in the next coming months so that they can revisit an incubator proposal? Dr. Tej, would you like to take this question up?
Yeah, Arusi, like how it is in like how all our other panelists have stated earlier as well. I think in most of the cases, the reason for rejections have already been highlighted. The parameters that most of the incubator uses are more or less similar in nature. These are things that needs to be addressed to before we keep on looking for the next funding, or we keep on applying, because it amounts to multiple application. That's what we call apply no reply, and you keep applying and then you get no response out of it, and that's not something that should not deter or dishearten the startups. Unfortunately, what happens in many of the cases, they feel that if it is rejected by one incubator, I have multiple other options, and with the same thing they go on applying to multiple other things. What needs to be done in the first place is we need to introspect. I think what Dr. Rama said very rightly and very correctly, the best thing to do is to go to the nearest incubator to seek for help. They are there to help you. Everybody in an incubator is there to help you. Go to the nearest incubator. They will be there to assist you, guide you, and then maybe make changes in the way that you have been putting things together. Maybe it is the way you pitch, maybe the way you have put things together, maybe the business model canvas that you have put in. There must be somewhere something must have gone wrong, that people have not accepted the proposal. So I think the first thing is to introspect on ourselves, and maybe the best possible way to do is the support that you would like to get, you will get it from the closest incubator. Once that is done, I think you have a lot of openings that will open up easily, and I think the next support is I think they in fact the incubators themselves might be able to support you without you having to go to any other place, is something that I would like to suggest. That is all I have to say on this one. Yeah.
We won't assure any startup that you will get complete funding kind of thing, but there is, we will try to improve, the chance of getting funding kind of thing. So that's why our advice is to startups who, but the budding entrepreneurs, please go and, you are the nearest incubation centers, whomever it may be, irrespective of the sector and thrust areas. You ask them what to be done, so they will suggest you how to go about it.
So I have a quick thing to add. At STEP, we've tried and invested to at least 35% of our portfolio. So, yes, my co-panelist just said, we cannot guarantee investments unless the business model is scalable and there is an innovative, there is an innovation which contributes to the unique value proposition. So it's just as simple as that. So if you are in a sector which is emerging and which can promise a great industry attractiveness for, say, at least next 3 to 5 years, and you have a great team which is ready to make it a winning team, please do visit a nearest incubator, and the incubation team will do their best to take you on from there. So that's that's what you should be doing.
We would really like to thank all the panelists for answering all the questions raised by the audience. Now we move on to the last section of the session. We are very, very excited to introduce to you Startup Shala, which is Startup India's accelerator program, a 3-month accelerator program specifically tailored for early stage startups. This program is geared towards providing comprehensive support, including access to knowledge, networking, funding, and guidance, crucial guidance for scaling up. The cohorts will focus on specific sectors, with this inaugural one concentrating on clean tech, and 20 startups per cohort will be meticulously selected through an open call for applications. Successful completion will earn each startup a certification. Noteworthy program highlights include a no equity requirement, personalized one-on-one mentorship, a unique upscale shadow program with industry leaders, and a curriculum covering key aspects such as product market fit, validation, and fundraising preparation. Furthermore, the program emphasizes the development of essential C-suite leadership skills for success in the current market, with pro bono services, facilities, and strategic partnerships, a mock pitching marathon, and government connects. Startup Shala aims to empower startups with the tools they need for success. With this, I'd like to show a video to launch Startup Shala.
Thank you for that.
Great
Thank you,
initiative.
everybody. Uh, for all the audience as well, do visit the Startup India website and check out the Startup Shala Accelerator program. If it is suitable to you, it fits your eligibility criteria, please do apply, and we look forward to it. Finally, we come to the end of this panel discussion today. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the panel members present and Tanvi for moderating the session with me. Thank you, everybody. We'll have loads of sessions. We have planned them for the week moving forward. Please do join us for all these sessions and stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Startup India.